Hey everyone, Rick here, and folks, if you thought the Modular Dungeon Terrain Wars were cooling off, let me introduce you to ezStack. Alright folks, what are we looking at here? Well, full disclosure, Brian Grubb of ezStack fame sent this set of ezStack walls and tiles to me for review. This, folks, this project is on Kickstarter right now. That's right, no need to wait or remind yourself when the project launches. It's live. This baby is kicking. Go check it out. I have links in the description to their YouTube channel, the Kickstarter page. All the information you're going to need is in the description below. And let me tell you first of all, I mean, there's a lot of fantastic features about this, but I have a top three. There are three things that absolutely blow me away. All right, let's start off with kind of a little background here. So Brian Grubb is not only the designer, the sculptor, the painter of these tiles, but yes, he 3D printed them, and those files are included in the Kickstarter. What you're looking at is one set. This is one complete set of the ezStack product, and if this caught your eye, you're not alone. This is the caddy system. Look, there's even more pieces underneath. This was just a sample build that I put together, but folks, this entire set fits in this caddy. Are you kidding me? Talk about the ultimate storage solution. If I want a one-off quick dungeon, what do you think I'm going to do? Go through tubs and tubs of Dwarven Forge, boxes and boxes of Warlock tiles? Or do you think I'm going to go for this caddy that has all the pieces right there? Okay, so anyway, I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but just a hint, the caddy may be one of my three favorite things about these tiles. Okay. What can you expect on the Kickstarter? Well, first of all, I encourage you to go check out the project page once we finish with this video, of course. But I do want to mention, so there's over 30 days left of the project, so don't worry, there's still time to pledge. Here are the different pledge levels, which are fantastic. Number one, $25 will get you the 3D printer files. I know a lot of you out there, every time I review some dungeon terrain, you say, oh, I can print it cheaper for myself. Here you go. This one's for you. $25 will get you the files for the caddy, the walls, the floors, the doors, the clips. Oh, that's right. I said clips. We'll take a look at those in just a second as well. $80 to get this full set unpainted. $80 will get you everything you see here unpainted. You want it painted? You know I do. $120 to get the painted set. So an extra $40 will get exactly what you see here essentially. $500. There is the ultimate tier. $500 will give you 2 times the painted pledge level plus the 3D printer files plus all stretch goals included. All right, so that's fantastic. Who is Brian Grubb? Well, he is not only the designer of these tiles, but also a sign language interpreter by day, dungeon designer by night, I assume probably at some point during the day as well. Now, a lot of what you're seeing here is still in the kind of dry fit assembly phase, especially the caddy Brian mentioned to me is a kind of a prototype. There might be a future iteration of that includes even more features like a drawer. That'd be pretty sweet. So what do you get in a single set of these tiles? Well, you get 27 stone floors. Oh yeah, I mean, there's something I want to scream about right now that is so cool. You probably see it already. 27 stone floors, 9 wood tile floors, 16 exterior walls, 16 interior walls, 8 of these corner pieces, 8 doors, which actually function. Oh my gosh, I forgot. That may actually be, that may boost my things I absolutely love to 4 instead of 3. I forgot to include that, but those are both interior and exterior doors, and we'll go over that in a second as well. 20 spacers. These are the spacers, and we'll show why in a second those are necessary, and 100 H clips. Let's start there. Why not? You're familiar, if you've seen my videos, with modular dungeon terrain that requires clips. These, I'll be honest, and I'm being honest here, folks, these may be my favorite shaped clips out of all the clips. Number one, they're a soft plastic, easy to use, easy to slot into the pieces. And we'll take apart a couple pieces and show you how to assemble this as well. But the shape of the clip, the way that these fit in is absolutely phenomenal. All right, so that was everything. And then an alternative tile sculpts could possibly come as add-ons. So what you see here, you know, the basic dungeon floors, the basic dungeon walls, we might see additional sculpts for those as add-ons in the project in the future. All right, let's run down right now my 4 favorite things. Now, these are not in any particular order. Let's start with the doors. Are you kidding me? They managed what WizKids could not and have an interior functioning door. Folks, that is everything to me. In a dungeon crawl, typically, I am going to want to, denote which doors are open, which doors aren't. Not just exterior doors, but interior doors as well. And since we're talking about doors, let's mention how these doors are actually both interior and exterior. And this will also kind of go into my second favorite thing. So here are these spacers. Here's how an H-clip works. So the clip itself slots right into the bottom of there, just like that. So this would go under one of these tiles, which we'll take a look at in a second. If you remove this wall, because I have this entire thing clipped together, which is fantastic because, and this isn't even one of my top 4 things, but it's still fantastic. So you can slide this whole build all over the table. So if you wanted to, you could remove this wall, for example, slip this spacer under there instead, and this door actually has an indentation underneath that'll clip right onto the top of that, and then that would replace this wall. So it's both an exterior door like that or an interior door like this. How do they make it interior? Well, it's because of the way these tiles are spaced. And this leads to my second favorite thing about them. Folks, Brian took us off-grid. That's right, we're going off-grid here in terms of your typical 1-inch square grid. The spaces themselves are 1-inch squares. Here's a figure, for example. But you'll notice the spaces in between the squares. And folks, that makes this set magical for 2 reasons. Probably more than 2, but we'll just say 2 for now. And that is because when you have big chunky figures like this that have outstretched arms and are holding weapons, you can put figures next to them, folks, without overcrowding. You can stick a whole bunch of figures there. You have 4 figures in a square. Can you imagine? Look at all the weapons and the heads and everything poking out. You can't do this with 1-inch square grid without some space in between. It's so luxurious. That's the word that was going through my mind the entire time I was playing with these, is that the space in between the squares, that extra convenient space, is so luxurious for all your figures. You can take them without, disturbing too much around them. All right, in addition to that, it's what allows these walls and doors to become interior walls and doors, because as you can hopefully see here, the space in between the 1-inch squares is where these friction fit interior walls and doors can slot right down inside there, and that's how you can subdivide rooms just like this. All right. So that was what? Okay, so we have functioning doors. The clips was another one of my favorite things. The spaces in between the tiles was another one. Folks, the other amazing thing are these spacers. So let's talk about these spacers. What does that do? Brian, the genius designer here, came up with these spacers, and they solve a big issue with some other major manufacturers of dungeon terrain. Check out this corner. you see here how this corner, you know, the wall is the full length of the tile. And then if you wanted to have this floor here with a wall along it, full length of the tile, if those two tiles were right directly at an angle there, these two walls would overlap and that would be impossible to fit it in. These spacers clip just like floor tiles together and allow that extra little gap. And so I have spacers over here. I have spacers over here that you can barely see, and I have spacers here, and that's what makes this entire build stay like it is. Oh, it's fantastic. But not only that, because you can friction fit these doors, and I mean, they're fit pretty good. And I don't want to disturb the whole thing, but I'll take this door out. You can see it was just friction fit in between those squares, but it also, as we showed earlier, has that indentation underneath of it like that, and that those spacers, like we saw earlier, allow that, you know, door to stick right there if you wanted to do it that way as well. All right, folks, that is freaking amazing. Oh yeah, and the caddy was one of the other major things. I can't even remember all this caddy. Again, you have the ability to store this entire build in this one caddy, and there's plenty more pieces if you wanted to subdivide this up even further. There's the clips. All right, let's actually take a look at assembling these walls and floors and how it all goes together with the clips. Here's another cool feature, just by the nature of how these are designed. Here's what puts the stack in ezStack. You can see the whole underside is kind of has an indented space there. So, yeah, that's right. The above tiles slot nicely in there, so they absolutely do stack if you wanted to play around with some elevated features, for example. All right, folks, I'm going to pull this off. So you can fly in rooms. Now, the clips are soft enough where if you have a small room like this, you can pick it up, okay? But the clips are soft enough that generally they're just for sliding things around on the table, which is fantastic. All right, so how does this go together? Well, let's look at the magic. That's the undercarriage of this whole thing, and you can see how these H-clips go together. All right, so for example, here's a wall. We're going to kind of disassemble this a little bit. Here's what the underside of a wall looks like. You see the slot for the clip and the little opening there, and you can see on the floors there's 4 openings all the way around. The clips are perfectly sized so that one half will go into a floor and the other half will go into a wall, just like that. And I mean, you don't hear me screaming or anything like that because my fingers hurt from using the clips. These clips slot together so beautifully. It's just absolutely fantastic. Love the H clips, and that's how walls and floors are assembled. And let's take a closer look at some of the sculpts. I mean, look at the floors. Not only do you have the 1-inch squares for the floors, detailed with the wood paneling and whatnot, but even the spaces in between, you can see the little nails and the detail of the wood. So it's not like you have 4, wood squares to a tile and the in-between is blank. Oh no, it still all looks cohesive and gorgeous. Stone walls nicely detailed with stone. Take a closer peek at the stone floors. Look absolutely fantastic. All right, let's do some measuring here and compare to some other walls from other manufacturers just to give you an idea of how well these mesh together. Okay, folks, here we go. A couple little measurements here. So if we measure the floors, we have looks like about 8 millimeters high for the floors. The walls we're looking at about 40 millimeters high. So that'll give you an idea if you have some dungeon terrain of your own at home, if that'll mesh well. But let's take a peek at how some other manufacturers' terrain stacks up. The biggest issue here, again, of course, is going to be that the 1-inch grid on other manufacturers have very little space in between the squares, so you're not going to have a cohesive grid. But what I found when I was kind of playing around with this is, check this out. Look at that. So the walls actually kind of cover the gaps on either side of the floor. So as long as you don't necessarily mind that the grid is off, you can absolutely stack these next to one another. Now, we'll go over comparison of floor heights and wall heights in a second, but that was Warlock tiles. Here are some Dwarven Forge pieces. Similar situation here. I mean, that doesn't look half bad, right? Of course, I grabbed some cavern pieces, but you could grab some dungeon pieces, and I mean, dungeon terrain just makes me so happy. You can absolutely use these. Again, look at this middle floor goes right into a room. So you can butt a Dwarven Forge build up against ezStack tiles, and you have a perfect passageway transition into other builds. All right, so you may have seen the Dwarven Forge walls are higher than the ezStack walls. The Warlock tiles exterior walls are shorter than the ezStack wall. So you have right in between Warlock and Dwarven Forge in terms of wall height. Floor height, look at this. They are practically identical. The Warlock floor compared to the ezStack floor and the Dwarven Forge floor. This is not the best floor to use because it's a cavern floor that's all sorts of different elevations, but it's not bad. It is a little bit bigger. If you can kind of see there's kind of a lip, but not terrible. Okay, folks, that was some comparing. Now let's populate this, my favorite part, and let's see this build come to life. All right, folks, one quick thing, another measurement that I'm sure people are going to want to know and that I completely neglected to take a peek at are the width of the floors themselves. And so from the very corner there to another corner over here, you might not be able to quite be able to see, but it's right between 60 and 61 millimeters. All right, folks, here she is. Now, I could have put some stairs in here or an exterior door for an entrance, but I came up with maybe a different way that the adventurers may have found themselves in this situation that no one honestly would want to be in. So here are our two adventurers. They actually came down, found themselves in this storeroom through a grate in the ceiling that happened to be in the floor of a above ground building. But down here in the storeroom, they find themselves face to face with some hobgoblins. Come through this door, you find some kind of arcane hag reading from a tome. Look at all these orcs and goblins surrounding her. Maybe, just maybe, you can convince this Dwarven Forge to see if he'll let you have one of his arcane weapons. Now, if you go through this way, you're going to find yourself face to face with a ferocious ogre, but look at what your reward might be. In this room, oh gosh, just what we want to find are some cultists. Or if you came back this way through this room into what I have to assume is some kind of cafe or, mess hall. And yeah, just a whole mess of thugs in there. So folks, as you can see, you throw in some terrain and figures and you have quite a scenario. This is fantastic. Let's get into the nitty-gritty. Pros and some feedback, because sure, I do have some feedback as well. Pros, the caddy. And we'll take a peek in just a second of how this entire thing looks stored away in the caddy. It is impressive. That was number one. Number two, the functioning doors. Yeah, I absolutely love it. Number three, the shape of the clips. Everything goes together so smoothly. And number four, the space in between the squares. So luxurious for stacking figures, one right next to the other. Plenty of room to put terrain down. So some feedback. What would I say are some notes of feedback? Well, the main one that I would love to see are these interior walls have a slit cut underneath them, just like the doors do, so that this wall would be able to slot right into that spacer piece. Right now, I just have it slotted in between the raised area of the spacer and these floor tiles. So right in between there is where it's resting right now. But what I would love is if it could have slotted right into that spacer piece, just like that door is. If these two interior walls could have slit into those spacer pieces, that would be fantastic. Another thing that is kind of related to that is just the fact that we do have a situation come up sometimes where you can't bisect the rooms with the interior walls as much as you'd like. So for example, if I wanted to subdivide this room, let's say, into 2 rooms, well, we have plenty of interior walls to do that with if we wanted to. You'll notice that they're 2 space units wide, so you could slot it in there like that. And then, yeah, what you'd have to do, and we'll kind of tear this apart a little bit, is to bring this wall out here and bring this doorway out here. And then you can see that you would have the ability then to put another wall, it looks like, in between here. But unfortunately, this wall here takes up the space on that tile so that this actually will not fit down in between there like that. So if you bisect it like this, then you can see that wall takes up part of that, so this wall can't quite fit over there enough. So those are my only 2 pieces of feedback. Would be, honestly, this might solve it all. If these interior walls had a slot underneath so that they could stick in there as well. But as is, as you can see, I was able to complete this as the system is currently. So absolutely love it, folks. That is ezStack. Stay tuned, because we're going to show you how it all packs up in the caddy. Before we get into the highly anticipated caddy portion of the video, one other quick tip of feedback that I thought of. Because if you saw that whole build, it was multiple clipped together sections. What might actually make it even more clipped together so you could move around the entire thing as one giant piece would be if there was another style of clip. As you can see right now, the H clip, which is fantastic, will only fit either 2 tiles together, a floor and a wall together, a spacer and a floor together. What if there was a clip that was just a little longer in the middle that would be able to bridge an entire spacer wide? So instead of having, these 2 sections be separate builds that you'd have to move independently, if there was a longer in the middle H clip that would connect all this right through the center of the spacer so you could move the entire thing as one, that would be another little tip of feedback. But again, as you saw, it was highly successful with the current system in place. And here, folks, is the result. That entire dungeon. Dwarven Forge for scale. Look at this. Unreal how it all packs in here seamlessly. So what do we got? Well, if I can do this one-handed, we have the whole underside with interior walls, doors, clips, and spacer pieces. Then you have this whole upper portion that has the corner pieces stacked above each other. You can see here these walls. There's 2 layers of the exterior walls in one of those corners. And then the other 3 corners, just stacks of floor tiles. All right, folks. To say that I'm impressed would be an absolute understatement. Again, check the liner notes in the description below for all the links that you'll need to check out, oh that's right, ezStack. Thank you all so much for watching. I do truly appreciate it, and until next time.